Part 26. Solving the case is a little bitter, but my sister is super sweet. Author, Kisiun Jeon. Chapter 251. Min City, began to close the city. The public security and armed police, all major entrances and exits, and major traffic arteries were fully blocked. Armed attack, more than a dozen lives. It would be strange if the city was not closed after such a big incident. All the bodies inside and outside the hotel were carried away. The 2 living people were also taken away. It was a blessing in disguise that there were no civilian casualties. At this time, the whole city was looking for Lin Xian, Guo Su, Li Long, and Zhan Xiaoyang. Listed as terrorists. However, they were acting in cooperation with the Special Criminal Case Task Force. The public security system of Min City, the top 2 leaders of the city. It is clear what is going on. They have also been issued a gag order. Shut up. If the identity information of Lin Xian and others is leaked, they will also be arrested as soon as possible. The Ministry of Public Security also sent people to investigate directly. How did a team of mercenaries carry arms into Min City? The entry of mercenaries is no joke. Although all the mercenaries have been wiped out, they must be held accountable. In a villa, Lin Xian sat on the sofa and ate fast food, wolfing down his food. Are you crazy? You shot at your own people. Lu Yan, who was wearing plain clothes, sat opposite and asked with a smile. The situation is urgent, and I don't want my own people to get involved. Lin Xian chewed his food, vaguely. Their identities have been confirmed. They are indeed personnel from a foreign mercenary company. Lu Yan put away her smile, another merit. As mentioned in the previous article, when foreign troops enter the country, any mercenary is a walking second-class merit. A team of fully armed mercenaries, this must be a first-class merit at least. This merit will be recorded for the time being, and we will talk about it after the super dark web case is over. If this dark web cannot be found, it cannot be destroyed. Don't talk about the merit, the Ministry of Public Security will be criticized. The higher UPS will ask, such a large dark web hidden in Longguo cannot be found. What's the point of raising you trash? The boss has given you the highest authority. Lu Yan's expression was serious. The national public security system will also fully cooperate with you. Are you trying to buy me off? Lin Xian was busy eating and had no time to talk. This is the benefit of having a big organization behind you. There is a national level violent machine behind you to support you. What conspiracy and tricks are there? Just crush them and it's over. Your 2 sisters also asked me to tell you something. Lu Yan laughed again. I told you to be less arrogant and kill less. I didn't, you're talking nonsense, don't wrongly accuse me. Lin Xian rolled his eyes. I'm a policeman, why kill? This is called eliminating harm for the people. Haha. Lu Yan laughed, you have killed hundreds of people. In today's era, let alone the police. Just look at the people of the world, everyone alive, one by one. Isn't it scary to find a few who have killed hundreds of people? Lin Xian's expression became cautious, and his attitude became much more correct. He himself is also quite capable. Who wouldn't be afraid of killing 100 people? Those who killed hundreds and thousands of people in history. Just wait and see what will happen to them. You should be careful next. Lu Yan warned, a gentleman should not stand under a dangerous wall. I don't need to teach you, right? Got it? Lin Xian put down his chopsticks. He couldn't eat this meal anymore. He muttered, I'm not a child. But he was complaining in his heart. Melee combat is the romance of men. At night, 7 o'clock. Yuan Jiamao hid in a daily rental house in panic. Took out a laptop and logged into the dark web. As a result, his login tool failed. Yuan Jiamao's face was as pale as paper, and his eyes showed panic that could not be concealed. Fear, like the tide in the dark. It invaded his heart silently, making him feel chills. For a long time, Yuan Jiamao's eyes shot out a sinister light, and a hideous smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. He murmured, "Since you are unkind, don't blame me for being unjust." Having managed the dark web for many years, how could he not have a backup plan? Slowly raising his wrist, Yuan Jiamao looked at his watch. This watch looks ordinary, but it is just a disguise. It has a special storage function, which records the personal information of tens of thousands of people. Dark web member information. These people include killers, mercenaries, officials, dignitaries, all kinds of people. As long as he hands it over to the police, the hard work of the entire dark web for many years will be destroyed by him. The reason why the dark web can survive is because of the dark web members, and everyone knows this truth. Maybe. Should I threaten some people and use this information of tens of thousands of members to exchange for some money? Yuan Jiamao's face was as if shrouded in darkness, and his ferocious expression made people dare not look directly at it. 100 million? Or 1 billion? As long as he holds this list of dark web members, those people dare not give it? Yuan Jiamao quickly stood up. Prepare to find a way to leave Mindu City. If you want money, you have to live to spend it. He has to protect himself first. Yuan Jiamao was just about to leave the daily rental house. Suddenly, the door opened. A heavily made-up woman walked in. Yuan Jiamao's expression suddenly changed. Before he could speak, the woman had a pistol with a silencer in her hand. Pointed at him. SHH. The woman smiled, "Don't shout, don't talk, or you'll die." Yuan Jiamao's body trembled involuntarily. The fear made him feel helpless and desperate, as if the whole world collapsed. He guessed who the other party was and who sent him. He also knew what the other party wanted to do next. "It's over." The woman stepped forward. The muzzle of the gun was against Yuan Jiamao's forehead. She took out the cable tie and skillfully tied Yuan Jiamao's hands and feet. Yuan Jiamao dared not move, and cold sweat oozed from his forehead. As if he had foreseen something terrible. Waiting for the woman to tie Yuan Jiamao's hands and feet. Then she looked at him with a smile, "You should have something in your hand. Hand it over, you will die more easily, do you understand what I mean?" Yuan Jiamao's forehead was covered with cold sweat, shivering, I really don't have anything, are you, Wu?" The woman covered his mouth. Puff. A dull gunshot. Yuan Jiamao's thigh was hit by a bullet. Woo woo. Yuan Jiamao wanted to shout, but his mouth was covered tightly. Puff, 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 3 more shots. 3 bullets hit the same thigh of Yuan Jiamao. He rolled his eyes in pain and trembled all over. Unable to bear it any longer, he looked at the woman with pleading eyes. "Do you want to say it?" The woman laughed and let go of her hand. "My watch, it's in the watch." Yuan Jiamao wailed in pain. The woman smiled and looked at Yuan Jiamao's watch and untied her belt. She took the watch in her hand, observed it, and nodded. She looked at Yuan Jiamao again, raised the pistol, pointed it at her forehead. "You can die now, huh?" The woman was stunned. She looked at Yuan Jiamao, whose face changed drastically and looked like he had seen a ghost. At this time, Yuan Jiamao's eyes widened and looked behind the woman. It was indeed like seeing a living ghost. The woman suddenly changed color and turned around quickly. But one hand pinched her neck. The other hand took away her pistol. When the woman looked terrified. Puff, 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 4 shots. The woman's limbs were broken. Before she could scream, the hot gun barrel was inserted into her mouth. A teasing voice sounded in her ears. "Hold it, don't scream, don't talk, or you will die." These words were exactly what the woman had just said to Yuan Jiamao. Solving the case is a little bitter, but my sister is super sweet. Author, Kisiun. Chapter 252. Lin Xian looked at the woman in front of him with a face full of fear and pain, as if he was looking at an ant. He looked at her struggling, and looked at her slowly going into shock due to the inability to breathe and lack of blood supply. He looked at the woman collapsing like a dead dog. He turned around, picked up the watch on the ground, and looked at Yuan Jiamao, who was full of fear and anxiety. Old ghost, we meet again. Yuan Jiamao's face was stiff with fear, and his eyes were desperate and confused. What's in the watch? Lin Xian asked with a smile. Yuan Jiamao trembled, the identity information of dark web members, and some things they have done. How many people? Nearly 70,000. Hearing this number, Lin Xian couldn't help but be moved. Information of 70,000 dark web members. As long as you have it, you can easily control them. Threaten, use, and control their life and death. Even if the police get it, the dark web has almost been destroyed by more than half. Think about the scene of arresting 70,000 criminals. It makes people's scalp numb. I guess you know what I want most now, right? Lin Xian squatted in front of him, his eyes full of murderous intent. Yuan Jiamao certainly knew. In his heart, Lin Xian had been equated with mercenaries and killers. What he wanted to do was to kill the top leaders of the dark web. Kill all those who knew about the national treasure. Murder and silence, and take the national treasure for yourself. Coincidentally, Yuan Jiamao also hated the top leaders of the dark web. Even if he died, he wanted these people to be buried with him. There are two heads of the dark web, I call them big brother and big sister-in-law. Yuan Jiamao, who was completely broken physically and mentally, began to confess, they also have a team dedicated to maintaining the dark web, and some dark web managers, I am one of the managers. Through Yuan Jiamao's confession, there are not as many top leaders of the super dark web as imagined. In total, there are less than 20 people. There are only two heads, a couple. There are 7 people in the team that maintains the dark web, and 8 supervisors who manage the dark web. And the rest are a group of marginal people. The reason why Yuan Jiamao became the supervisor. It was also because he was an old man when the dark web first appeared. He had a good relationship with the couple. The dark web at that time was just a small dark web. Later, it gradually grew and expanded, and some computer experts were specially hired. Nearly 5 years have passed before it has the current super dark web scale. It is easy to catch the team and supervisors who maintain the dark web. But it is difficult to catch the couple. Because they never show up in their true form. No one knows who they are, whether they are in the country, and how old they are. But what is certain is that the couple is Beijing people. Because at the beginning of the dark web, the couple spoke with a Beijing accent. Later, they spoke standard Mandarin, probably because they were afraid that people would recognize their accents. Lin Xian's head was a little big. It is a bit unrealistic to find people based on this information alone. Unless the couple jumps out themselves. Through Yuan Jiamao's confession. In 5 years, the couple obtained a lot of illegal income through the dark web. Preliminary estimates show that it is at least 5 billion. You heard it right, at least. No one knows how much they made. Suppose, the couple will hide their identities from now on. That money alone can make them live happily for the rest of their lives. But, will they really stop? If they can stop, they will not send assassins to find Yuan Jiamao and take away the dark web member list, right? It means that they still want to continue doing dark web business, which means that they will not let go of the national treasure. So, Lin Xian dodged instantly. A bullet shattered the glass of the daily rental house, and the bullet flew past Lin Xian. But it hit Yuan Jiamao directly, making a terrifying big hole in his chest. Lin Xian narrowed his eyes. It felt that the bullet was not meant to shoot him. Some people don't want him to die. Thinking in his brain, Lin Xian guessed a possibility. Someone wants to catch him alive? And this idea almost made Lin Xian unable to do it. No, how dare you? Lin Xian stood up instantly, in order to verify his guess. He rushed to the broken window and jumped out. He jumped from the second floor to the ground and ran for his life. He was going to act it out. He wanted to see if his guess was correct. Was the other party really coming for him? But he just ran out of an alley and found two people chasing him. Not only that. A gunshot rang out. Lin Xian's expression changed, but he did not dodge. Why not dodge? Because his perception did not sense the killing intent, which meant that this bullet would not kill him. What kind of bullet is a bullet that will not kill people? Puff. He was hit in the chest. A strange bullet was inserted into his chest. Lin Xian's expression became extremely strange. Anesthetic bullet. After being hit by the anesthetic bullet, he clearly felt that a cold liquid was injected into his body. The body felt numb, but it was very slight. In just a moment, all the discomfort was eliminated by his monster-like body. Lin Xian closed his eyes. Plop. Fell to the ground. Two sturdy men ran up to Lin Xian. Picked up the watch, lifted Lin Xian, and walked to the side of the road. Then lifted him into a van. Time passed slowly. The van never stopped, but drove to a large repair shop. Then, Lin Xian was lifted into a container truck and stuffed into a large box. Then, large boxes were put into the container, blocking the box where Lin Xian was. Lin Xian slowly opened his eyes, looked at the dark surroundings, and smiled coldly. He closed his eyes again and relaxed his body. The container truck started, drove out of the repair shop, and drove onto the road. Then, he came to the blocked entrance of the highway. An unexpected scene appeared. The driver took out a document indicating that the goods on the truck were important materials. The armed police and the police opened the box and checked it. Let it go. The city was closed for nothing? Lin Xian opened his eyes again, his eyes full of murderous intent. Some people really deserve to die. No hurry, take your time, those who deserve to die must die. 7 hours later. The container truck entered the Puer Expressway. Another 2 hours, entered Zhongcheng, Ning'erhani and Yi Autonomous County. When the truck stopped, the container opened. One by one, the goods were moved down. Finally, the box containing Lin Xian was lifted down and carried into a warehouse. When the box was opened, Lin Xian lay on the ground obediently. Until a basin of cold water was poured on him. He opened his eyes and slowly sat up. A dozen black gun muzzles pointed at him. Lin Xian looked at the people around him coldly. A group of soldiers, but not regular soldiers. But mercenaries. Suddenly, a female voice sounded in the warehouse. Now, it's your turn to buy back your own life. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Solving the case is a little bitter, but my sister is super sweet. Author, Kisiun Zhong. Chapter 253. Use money to buy back my own life. Lin Xian's expression is not right. He seems to be enduring something, and his expression is a little strange. At the same time, he has seen the situation in the entire warehouse clearly. 14 fully armed mercenaries. They are not ordinary mercenaries, but very elite ones. It may be an exaggeration to say that they are all soldier kings. However, Lin Xian felt the aura of 4 soldier kings. He also felt a more special aura from a mercenary. Not a soldier king, not a war soldier, and not a god of war. That aura is very strange. He thought that there seemed to be a king in every profession. The police have a police king, and the military has a soldier king. So among the mercenaries, will there be a mercenary king? More than a dozen people were masked, but two mercenaries looked at Lin Xian unscrupulously. White, European, European. Narrow nose, thin lips, straight jaw, and clear facial contours, strong body. When Lin Xian saw the regimental emblem on their training uniforms, his face darkened. There are not many mercenaries in the world who dare to embroider the regimental emblem on their training uniforms. But there are still a few. For example, Blackwater, Arctic Fox, and one, Wagner mercenary. Looking at the two long swords and five-pointed stars on the yellow, black, and red tricolor regimental emblem of the mercenaries, the murderous intent in Lin Xian's eyes flickered. The Wagner Group was founded in 2014, and it has only been 2 years to this day. But the combat effectiveness of the Wagner mercenaries is extremely terrifying in the future. It is a terrifying mercenary group that can beat the Navy SEALs and Delta Force. Don't disbelieve it. In 2022, on a battlefield, a team of 9 Wagner mercenaries encountered 12 Delta Force soldiers. Result: 3 Wagner mercenaries were killed, while 5 Delta Special Forces were killed and 7 were captured alive. Wagner mercenaries also beheaded 7 Delta Special Forces in front of the whole world. It shocked the world. From that day on, Delta, one of the top 10 special forces in the world, fell from the altar. And the Wagner mercenaries directly ascended the throne and became the strongest mercenary group, no one else. Who gave them the courage to enter Longguo? With the relationship between Longguo and Demao. How dare these Wagner mercenaries? Lin Xian frowned and slowly stretched his eyebrows. Money. Mercenaries land on the battlefield for money. If you pay enough money, they won't care what country you are from, right? Why aren't you talking? The female voice came from a speaker in the warehouse again. Are you scared? I'm just wondering. Lin Xian looked calm and coldly at the speaker. You paid to hire these mercenaries to enter the Dragon Kingdom? Do you really not know how to write the word death? Ha. The female voice laughed. Aren't you a mercenary yourself? How dare you? Don't you plan to meet me? Lin Xian sneered. Stop dreaming, how could I possibly meet you? The woman's laughter turned into a sneer. You'd better be a fool. You took so much trouble to capture me, just to say these words. Lin Xian pondered for a moment. Want to know where that thing is from me? You are very smart. Since you guessed it, it's better to tell the truth. The woman's voice became cold. At least you can suffer less. Really? Lin Xian's expression gradually became a little strange, looking at the mercenaries around him. Then tell me, what will happen if I tell these mercenaries about that thing? The woman's voice suddenly stuck. If the Wagner mercenaries knew about the Dragon Kingdom's national treasure, what would the consequences be? Do you still want to kill me now? Lin Xian stood up slowly, ignoring the guns around him. If I die, you will never find the whereabouts of that thing again. But if you don't kill me now, do you believe that I will tell these mercenaries about that thing and join them by the way? The woman was completely silent. However, a man's voice sounded in the speaker. What do you want? Finally, you can't sit still anymore, and don't let women shield you. Lin Xian asked with a smile. What should I call you, the dark web leader, or something else? It doesn't matter. The man asked coldly. Tell me some conditions I can accept. 5 billion. Lin Xian's expression was calm. Also, I need to know who you are. Maybe his lion's mouth scared the other party. No words for a long time. No more talking. Lin Xian seemed a little bored. Then let's not talk about it. None of us want the things. You should know that 5 billion is impossible. The man's voice was cold and sarcastic. No, it's very possible. Lin Xian's tone was indifferent. Not even a penny less. If you agree, I will have someone send the things directly. The other party was silent for a long time again. Okay. One day later, Li Long appeared in Ning'erhani and Yi Autonomous County. Seeing Lin Xian in a deep forest, he held two items in his hands. In one hand he held a square box. In the other hand he held a bomb detonator. This detonator was specially made. Unlike other detonators, the bomb will explode only after pressing the detonation button. Instead, you need to release your finger after pressing the button, and the detonation button will pop up before the bomb explodes. This detonation method also has an advantage. Others cannot kill Li Long. If they kill him, his finger will pop off the detonator. The bomb hidden in the square box will explode. Blow up the things inside. Facing countless guns, Li Long showed no fear and came to Lin Xian. Not only did he hand the box to Lin Xian, he also carefully handed the detonator to Lin Xian. It was Lin Xian's finger that pressed the detonator button. Then, Li Long took out two more grenades and pulled out the grenade pull ring. He retreated step by step in a dignified manner, leaving everyone's sight. If others touch him, the roar of the grenade will inevitably attract onlookers. Maybe it will attract the police. Therefore, no one dared to touch him, and watched Li Long leave. My brother is awesome, Lin Xian laughed. He is indeed from the National Security Bureau. After getting the box and the detonator, Lin Xian followed the mercenaries back to the original warehouse. Do you need me to open the box in front of everyone? Lin Xian looked at the speaker and the camera on the speaker and sneered. No, I will send someone to check it in person. The man's voice sounded. Some excitement, but also some fear. Excitement is because of the things in the box. Fear is the detonator in Lin Xian's hand. If the jade seal is blown up, then it will be a waste of effort. At night, 11 o'clock. A woman appeared in the warehouse. Her appearance may not be amazing, but her calm and self-assured temperament is somewhat amazing. It seems that she has seen a unique charm. She waved her hand, and the mercenaries left the warehouse. Only she and Lin Xian were left. I want to see something first, the woman said softly. The voice was that of the sister-in-law. Lin Xian smiled brightly and nodded, okay. Very generously, he handed the wooden box to the woman. The woman took the wooden box and opened it carefully. When she saw the seal of the Queen of the Western Han Dynasty inside, her eyes brightened instantly. She took out her mobile phone, took a photo of the jade seal, and sent it through an app. Soon, the app sent a message. There were only 3 words. It's true. Solving the case is a little bitter, but my sister is super sweet. Author, Kisiun. Chapter 254. Can you answer a question for me? The man's words rang out again in the speaker, why don't you sell it for more money? That requires a lifetime to spend. Lin Xian smiled, 5 billion is enough for us to spend in this life, and we can also throw away the hot potato, why not? Is it reasonable? It is very reasonable. Sometimes, people can live longer if they stop when they are ahead. Lin Xian's acting is very realistic. It also proves why he took out the things happily. Tell me your account number. The man's words rang out in the speaker. It means that the other party also believed him. After telling his security account number, Lin Xian waited quietly. About 5 minutes. A mobile phone rang, from Li Long. 5 billion has arrived. Hand over the detonator, you can leave. The man's words came out of the speaker again. Do you think I'm stupid? Lin Xian laughed. Instantly, he hugged the woman's neck in front of him. Hijacking. The woman's face changed drastically. A low roar came from the speaker, what do you mean? What do you mean? Lin Xian grinned, do you really think I'm stupid? After handing over all the things, do you think I can really get out? And the money can be recovered? What if you take the money back? After the money is transferred, it can indeed be recovered. Many scammers often play this way. First deposit hundreds of thousands into your bank card. But you can't take this money out at all. The scammer will trick you into giving them some money first. After you transfer the money, the scammer will transfer the hundreds of thousands away. It's an old trick. Don't worry, wait for her to escort me to a safe place, and wait for my people to transfer the money away. Lin Xian sneered, I will let her go when the time comes. The man was silent. The woman's expression was constantly changing. Lin Xian held the woman hostage, holding the detonator in his hand, and walked out of the warehouse. The 14 mercenaries could only watch and could not do anything. Even if Lin Xian was killed, it would be useless, the bomb would explode. If the employer dies, can they get the final payment of their commission? And after Lin Xian kidnapped the woman, his strong sense of smell allowed him to smell a man's body odor on the woman. It should be the body odor of a man who was very close to the woman. The old ghost called the woman sister-in-law, so was the body odor of this man the big brother? Through the body odor residue. Does it mean that the woman and the man had just had skin contact not long ago? Lin Xian's eyes became extremely bright. Does this mean that the man is also in the city? Maybe even nearby? He came with this woman? That's right. Something as important as a national treasure must be obtained in person before it is yours. For this priceless treasure, the couple should also show up. So, where is this big brother hiding? Lin Xian's eyes were looking around, and his ears were also detecting the surroundings. Except for the 14 mercenaries and the woman in his arms, no one else was found. It seems that we have to start with the woman in front of us. Suddenly, Lin Xian stopped and looked at the mercenaries. I have a national treasure of Dragon Country here, do you want it? What do you want to do? The woman's expression changed drastically and she spoke angrily. Many mercenaries in front of him had blank expressions on their faces. However, 2 mercenaries' faces changed at the same time. Obviously, they understood what Lin Xian said and understood Chinese. Walking quickly, Lin Xian directly handed the wooden box in his hand to the 2 mercenaries. When the mercenaries opened the box, his eyes lit up. The mercenaries around who saw the jade seal also had shining eyes. Their expressions and eyes explain the phrase money moves people vividly. Just as all the mercenaries' attention was attracted by the jade seal, Lin Xian moved. In a flash, he threw away the detonator. Aren't you afraid of the bomb exploding? It's fake. And Lin Xian's hands also held the self-defense pistols on the 2 mercenaries in front of him. Draw the gun, safety, smoothbore, bang. The 2 guns fired, 10 shots in 1 second. Sneak attack. 1.5 seconds, bang, 4 more shots. 13 mercenaries were shot in the eyes and heads, and became 13 corpses. Sneak attack is necessary. Facing 14 top mercenaries alone, Lin Xian did not want to get hurt. But another mercenary's reaction speed was too fast. It was so fast that Lin Xian found it incredible. Not only did he dodge a bullet, but the opponent's fist also hit his throat. Bang! The fist was heavy. If it was an ordinary person, this punch would probably break his Adam's apple and neck. But Lin Xian put down his 2 guns and took his punch straight, looking at him coldly. No damage. The mercenary's face changed drastically in an instant and retreated. Too late. After rebirth, what is Lin Xian's most powerful ability? Is it the gunman's skills? Or strength? Neither. It's his thinking, reaction speed, close combat. When Lin Xian looked at the mercenary, the whole world began to freeze. No matter how fast the opponent was, he was still as slow as a turtle in his eyes. Lin Xian looked cold, stretched out his palm, and grabbed the opponent's throat. The opponent's reaction was extremely fast, and he actually tried to avoid Lin Xian's palm. At the same time, he grabbed a military knife in his hand and stabbed Lin Xian's lower abdomen. This is a way of fighting that will hurt both sides, and it is also a way of fighting that will not risk one's life. Whoever is afraid will die. On the battlefield, it depends on who is more ruthless. If you dare to be afraid, you will die. Het. Lin Xian sneered. Extended his other hand. Snap. With his hands as fast as lightning, he grabbed the neck and wrist of the mercenary in front of him respectively. What's the use? In the face of absolute power and speed, any fancy tricks are bullshit. Snap. The neck and wrist of the mercenary in front of him were crushed at the same time. Despair and pain appeared in the eyes of the opponent. But his face showed relief and longing. Plop. Fell to the ground. Lin Xian didn't know. The mercenary in front of him was indeed a mercenary king. The strongest mercenary in Wagner. His strength was definitely comparable to that of a combat soldier. But it was useless. In front of a reborn cheater. If it was a sneak attack, it would take 5 or 6 combat soldiers to kill Lin Xian. If it was a head-on battle, 10 less combat soldiers would be the same as sending himself to death. 14 Wagner mercenaries were left forever on the land of Dragon Country. Since you dare to come to Dragon Country, I will kill you. Lin Xian looked at the woman who was frightened and trembling all over. He walked over with the saber he had just taken from the mercenary in his hand. Now, it's our turn to talk. Standing in front of the woman, he raised his hand. Puff, the saber pierced the woman's lower abdomen. The woman also screamed heartbreakingly. Does it hurt? Lin Xian turned the handle of the knife with one hand and pinched the woman's neck with the other. If you don't want to suffer, tell me the location of your husband. Solving the case is a little bitter, but my sister is super sweet. Author, Qixiong. Chapter 255. 2 commercial vehicles were speeding on the road. There were 5 mercenaries sitting in a car. There were not only 3 mercenaries sitting in the other car, but also 2 men. One person drives and the other sits in the passenger seat. At this time, the young and middle-aged man in the passenger seat had a gloomy face and a cold and stiff expression. The corners of his mouth trembled slightly, revealing the fear and uneasiness deep in his heart. It seems that I am going through an inner storm. His wife was finished, and 14 mercenaries were dead. When something is wrong, he immediately wanted to escape from the city. As long as I can run, he would abandon the Darnet without hesitation and remain anonymous from now on. But, can we escape? 2 commercial vehicles entered the highway and drove away quickly. Almost all have reached a speed of 150 kilometers per hour. About half an hour. Sudden. The roar sounded outside the car and in the sky. The man in the passenger seat didn't notice the problem yet. The expressions of the mercenaries in the 2 cars changed with shock. As professional soldiers, they easily recognized the roar of a helicopter. Moreover, the propellers of the armed helicopters roared. A mercenary quickly lowered his window and looked up. Boom! The mercenary's head exploded instantly. A splash of red and white turned into a headless corpse. Guo Su on the armed helicopter had a cold expression. At the same time, a figure jumped from the armed helicopter. Like a ferocious beast. Boom! Stepping on the roof of the first commercial vehicle. Before the mercenaries in the car could react. Squat halfway, raise your arms, and pump your fists. Bang, a punch punctured the roof of the car. It hit the mercenary driving the commercial vehicle on the head. Hit the opponent's head directly into the chest. The commercial vehicle suddenly lost control on the highway and went sideways. Suddenly flipped over. The people in the car had already jumped up. Boom, it landed on the roof of the second commercial vehicle. Bang, Another punch punched through the roof of the car. He hit the man driving the car on the head and killed him. The vehicle lost control again and hit the highway guardrail. Lin Xian is like a flexible leopard. Jump from the air and plant your feet on the ground. Raise your arms. On the helicopter, Guo Su dropped a handful of micro-punches. Bang, Lin Xian caught him firmly. He walked toward the two commercial vehicles. Da-da-da. Gunfire exploded and bullets sprayed. The mercenary who climbed out of the first commercial vehicle was shot to death mercilessly by bullets. Lin Xian didn't even let go of the mercenaries in the car. One magazine was emptied, and all 5 mercenaries in the first commercial vehicle were killed. Ditch the microflush. Lin Xian came to the second commercial vehicle unscrupulously. Bang, a bullet was fired from the car. Flying past Lin Xian, who dodged for an instant. Bang, punched through the door glass. Hit the mercenary who fired the shot in the face. Click. The mercenary's neck was directly broken. At the same time, Lin Xian had an extra pistol in his hand. Bang bang, 2 shots were like 1 shot. 2 other mercenaries were killed. Put away the gun and pump your fist. Bang, it broke through the passenger window and grabbed the door. With a bang, the passenger door was pulled down. Lin Xian looked at the man in the passenger seat coldly. The hell did I let you run away? The man's eyes revealed deep fear, horror, and disbelief. Can you believe that a person not only jumps from the sky? And one person overturned 2 high-speed commercial vehicles. Like Shura, he slaughtered the mercenaries in the 2 cars. Is this really human? Unfortunately, Lin Xian no longer gave him a chance to think. He grabbed him by the neck like a dog. He grabbed out of the car and walked towards the slowly landing armed helicopter. He doesn't need to clean up the scene, there will be professionals coming. When Lin Xian grabbed the man and walked onto the helicopter, the man also saw his wife, who was covered in blood and no longer human-like, with only 1 breath left. His eyes flashed with despair. It seemed as if it had swallowed up his soul, putting him into endless panic. Don't worry, you and your wife won't die now. Lin Xian looked at him. How is it possible that you have done so many unscrupulous things and still want to die well? Click. There were bursts of hair-raising bone-cracking sounds. Lin Xian broke off the man's limbs and opened his jaw. Let alone suicide, he could only wail in pain. It seemed that all the man's hope had been extinguished. Only endless fear and pain remain. Airport. In front of a small passenger plane. The helicopter landed slowly. Lin Xian walked down and saw Lu Yan and her team members. Everyone breathed a sigh of relief. 2 big words floated through my head, awesome. But the more powerful Lin Xian performed, the more worried Lu Yan and everyone became. Ministry of Public Security, are you really going to keep him here? Let me say something unpleasant again. Are they equipped by the Ministry of Public Security? If Lin Xian didn't like to be a policeman himself, maybe he would have been transferred long ago. On a small passenger plane flying to Beijing, Lin Xian leaned on the chair as if he was exhausted. There were bouts of snoring. Everyone looked at him with complicated expressions. Even though he was fast asleep, Zhang Jun still had a smile on his face. That smile was as bright as the sun, warm and dazzling. People were attracted to him involuntarily. But this sunny smile would make people feel odd. Lu Yan retracted her gaze, picked up the special phone on the plane, and dialed a number. Far away in Beijing, in a courtyard. The phone of one of the sisters. It rang. An hour later, Lin Xian opened his eyes. He saw the plane was still flying in the air. The hand that reached into his pocket to take out a cigarette stopped, and then put it down depressedly. We'll be in Beijing soon. Lu Yan smiled and said, let's smoke after we get off the plane. Lin Xian smiled and continued to close his eyes to rest. The minister was going to pick you up in person. Lu Yan said, however, your two sisters are waiting for you. He said he would give you 7 days off to have a good rest. 7 days. Lin Xian opened his eyes in surprise, pleasantly surprised. Being a police officer is only for the new year. When have you ever seen such a long vacation? The case is too big. Lu Yan sighed, a lot of people will be in trouble, and too many people will be arrested. There are all kinds of dark web members in the super dark web. Just dealing with it will make the entire Ministry of Public Security busy. It also involves too many internal personnel, which is why Lu Yan sighed. There are too many termites. Why sigh? Catch those who should be arrested, kill those who should be killed, and we will clean them up when we meet one. Lin Xian yawned, a buddy I met some time ago said it well, even if the world is dirty, just wipe it clean and it's done, isn't that what we do? Lu Yan looked at him and was stunned. Lin Xian smiled like the sun and looked out the window. I didn't come to this world to reproduce. I came to see how flowers bloom and how water flows. How the sun rises and when the sun sets. What is there to be afraid of? Just do it. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Solving the case is a little bitter, but my sister is super sweet. Author, Kisiun Zhong. Chapter 256. Beijing. The airport in the early morning is like a quiet castle. Shrouded in the faint starlight and the rising dawn. The surrounding buildings are looming in the morning mist. The lights are dim, like a dream. A small passenger plane landed on the runway. It taxied quickly and stopped slowly. Outside the runway, there were ambulances, explosion-proof vehicles, and special police surrounding it. The cabin door opened, and Lin Xian and Lu Yan were the first to get off the plane. The team members carried a pair of seriously injured men and women and followed closely behind. Countless white shirts looked at Lin Xian who was coming, with complicated expressions and raised their hands to salute. This kind of scene where the superiors salute the subordinates first is really too rare. But in their eyes, the little guy in front of them is qualified. Continuing from the last time in Baibei, all the senior executives went out to welcome Lin Xian. This time, only the Ministry of Public Security's leader was missing. Don't treat the minister as a cotter. But coming to pick him up is actually for Lin Xian's good. Let the head of a department come to pick you up from time to time. That's not flattering you, that's hurting you. But this case is too big. It's too big. According to preliminary calculations, the criminals involved are in the tens of thousands. Don't think it's an exaggeration, it's a super dark web. As long as you log in, you are committing a crime. Any transaction on it is a crime. Among them, there may be as many as 70,000 major criminals. In the following time, the Ministry of Public Security will work with the National Public Security System to arrest these 70,000 criminals. Damn, since the founding of Longguo, who has ever seen such a scene, arresting so many people at a time? Such a case, strictly speaking, it's no less than Lin Xian's last time to break through the north. It's just that that time was a non-wartime military operation. But this time it's a serious and shocking case. So the white shirts present were all scalp numb, what credit to give? At the very least, they are all the lowest honorary titles. The highest, it must be the highest honorary title. Otherwise, have you ever seen a case bigger than this one, involving 70,000 criminals? Salute. Lin Xian led the crowd and saluted the group of white shirts in front of him. Wait for everyone to finish the salute. Lin Xian smiled and looked at the old man in front of him. Why are you here too? The old man in front of him is the executive vice minister of the Ministry of Public Security, and Mu Qingjian once told him. This elder has a good relationship with the father of the two sisters. Love the house and the dog, whether it is because of the superior or the relationship. Face must be given. So Lin Xian pretended to be like a little white rabbit and lowered his posture. In front of the leader, it is not normal to be low profile. Don't make a fuss. It may be normal for others, but it is not normal for Lin Xian. 6 times of first-class police merit winners, and 2 honorary titles winners. Only 22 years old this year. In today's era, the youngest police inspector and the youngest regular section chief in Longguo. This does not count his military lieutenant status. No need to deliberately lower your posture even if you meet someone. He is no longer a policeman who just joined the police force a few months ago. He is not the kind of criminal policeman in the previous life. He is the police king. Ha. The old man laughed heartily, stretched out his hand, and patted Lin Xian on the shoulder. It is obvious that this unruly little guy in front of him is giving him face in front of everyone. Deliberately lowering his posture in front of him. He can't help but think of the Mu family. If he can't see this bit of human relations, he will live in vain. But it also made the old man's eyes become a little complicated, and he smiled and said, "The case department has taken over, and your credit will not be less. Your group will take a few days off and take a long vacation. Come back to work after you have rested." "Thank you, Minister," Lin Xian responded happily. A group of members also had smiles on their faces. Is there any policeman who doesn't like taking a vacation? Only Lu Yan stood aside and shook her head with a smile. Knowing that with the words of the old man in front of him, Lin Xian's credit must be given at the highest level. However, if the highest level is really given, what else can be given if Lin Xian makes meritorious deeds in the future? It's like, you have been crowned a king. What, can you be crowned an emperor next time? Lu Yan looked at Lin Xian with a strange look in her eyes. She also wanted to see. What merit will the superior give to Lin? Lin Xian waved goodbye to everyone. After watching Wang Meng and others leave, he turned around. He looked at a business car parked on the roadside not far away. That car had been waiting for a long time. Lin Xian's eyes also became gentle. He walked over and opened the door. A pair of sisters were sitting in the car. Mu Qingtian snuggled in her sister's arms and slept soundly. Mu Qingjian looked at him with a gentle smile. Lin Xian got in the car and closed the door gently. Then he picked up the sleeping Mu Qingtian, sat down, put her on his legs, and hugged her in his arms. It seemed that he sensed something. The little slut hummed a few times like a lazy pig, and continued to sleep soundly in her brother's arms. Lin Xian held Mu Qingjian's hand. The two siblings smiled at each other. Lao Wu started the business car and drove out of the airport. Back home. Lin Xian carried Mu Qingtian back to the bedroom and put her on the bed. He helped her take off her clothes and covered her with a quilt. Then he walked out of the room and went to the bathroom. Mu Qingjian had already prepared the bath water. Seeing her brother coming, before she could speak, Lin Xian's hands seemed to have a fixed position and fell on her body. "Take off clothes." The goddess was angry and amused, and she was helpless with her rebellious son. Let him do whatever he wanted. Wait until she was picked up and soaked in the bathtub with Lin Xian. Mu Qingjian also nestled in his arms like a little bird. "You don't have to pick me up at the airport in the future, why are you making such a fuss?" Lin Xian, with his eyes closed, murmured, "It's not like you can't find your home." "I know." Mu Qingjian raised the corner of her mouth and responded in a low voice, "Hands are honest, you act like a pervert every day." He, you said this, if there is no pervert, is a beauty like you still valuable?" Lin Xian said it with confidence. Ha. Mu Qingjian chuckled. He was flattering. "So, I have to lust after your body, right?" Lin Xian argued, "If I don't lust after your body, why would I fall in love? If I'm not in love for lust, I won't be a pervert, and I won't be sworn brothers with my two sisters. I heard from experts that 95% of girls like their partners to be a little perverted, and it's best to tease them frequently. Sister, don't you think so? Mu Kinjian rolled her eyes at her brother. I'm the other 5%. The other sister said the same thing. Lin Xian laughed. Really? Really? But experts say that the remaining 5% are all hypocritical. Mu Kinjian's beautiful face was flushed. The pair of sparkling eyes also had a bit of feminine charm. In order to make him shut up, the goddess stood up and kissed his lips. Maybe. What my brother said makes sense. Solving the case is a little bitter, but my sister is super sweet. Author, Kisiun Zhong. Chapter 257. In the living room. The two siblings were sitting on the sofa, with their heads lowered, eating clear noodle soup on the coffee table. Look at each other from time to time, with a deep and gentle smile in his eyes. The indescribable warmth always makes people feel warm. It seems that the whole world is filled with sweetness and happiness. Maybe it's a coincidence. The two of them suddenly bowed their heads together. Lin Xian gave a bad smile and said, "Bow down to heaven and earth." Mu Qingjian blinked her beautiful eyes and rolled her eyes at him. When the two bowed their heads together again. "Two bows to Jiaotang," Lin Xian said seriously. Mu Qingjian was heartwarming and funny. Looking at each other, they laughed in tacit understanding again. Husband and wife bow to each other. Lin Xian laughed loudly. Mu Qingjian also smiled and narrowed her eyes. All looking at each other. "What do you want to do?" Mu Qingjian asked with a smile. "I want to kiss the bride," Lin Xian replied with a smile. Raising her hand, she straightened her charming face. He lowered his head and took Mu Qingjian's plump red lips into his mouth. Time seems to become slow and soft. If it wasn't some vixen who had just woken up who was snickering and watching them kiss, maybe it would be even more perfect. Lin Xian and Mu Qingjian separated and rolled their eyes together. "Have you finished kissing?" Mu Qingtian bit her lip, looking at her younger brother with rippling peach blossom eyes. "I want it too." "You want shit," Lin Xian scolded with a smile. Mu Qingtian rushed forward and hugged her brother's head. "He gave me red lips and a kiss." "Bah, bah, bah." Lin Xian pretended to be disgusted and wiped his mouth. "You dare to dislike your sister?" Mu Qingtian became angry and hugged his face and kissed him again. Lin Xian wiped his mouth deliberately again. "Go to hell." Mu Qingtian jumped up and stepped on her brother's mouth with her little foot. "If you don't want to kiss me, then kiss my feet." "Ha ha." Lin Xian laughed. "Why reward me again?" How perverted. The two sisters also laughed. Unexpectedly, Lin Xian suddenly knocked Mu Qingtian over on the sofa and rushed over. "Use the mouth that has just been stepped on to kiss the pervert." "Ah, no." Mu Qingtian screamed and acted coquettishly. "I'm wrong. Come on, give me a mouth." Lin Xian smiled evilly and lowered his head. "No." Mu Qing's sweet smile trembled. She covered her brother's mouth, and begged sweetly, "Please, please, don't." "What's wrong?" "Husband, I was wrong. It doesn't work." "Brother, I was wrong." Lin Xian's body was covered in goosebumps and numbness. Mu Qingjian picked up the noodle bowl on the coffee table and walked to the kitchen. "I don't want to eat dog food. I can't help but kill them all. Enough of the slapstick." Mu Qingtian kissed her younger brother on the mouth with her thin lips, pitifully. "Your Majesty, have you missed my concubine recently?" "I probably thought about it." Lin Xian acted like a young master, enjoying his sister's coquettishness. "Ah." Mu Qingtian wrinkled her nose, dissatisfied. "Then tell me, if one day the three of us siblings really travel to ancient times and you become the emperor, what will you give to your sister?" "You still need to ask." Lin Xian's expression was serious. "1 foot of white silk." Mu Qingtian was stunned and went crazy, laughing and scolding, "You piece of shit, you want to kill your sister. Don't you like Bailing?" Lin Xian chuckled, "Then I'll give you a glass of poisonous wine. You are a dog, you just want to kill your sister, right?" Mu Qingtian slapped the bagua lotus palm and said, "I'll kill you first. Then what do you want? Tell me." Lin Xian smiled and begged for mercy. "Give me something good." Mu Qingtian blinked her eyes and said cutely, "For example, identity, or something." "Identity." Lin Xian smiled evilly, "Given, General Zhen Yuan, he will be stationed at the border. He will not be allowed to return to Beijing without an edict." "Fight with you." Mu Qingtian screamed and pushed her brother down on the sofa, beating her in various ways. "I'll beat you to death, you heartless bitch." "Then what do you want?" While Lin Xian was enjoying the fist and foot massage, he asked knowingly, "Tell me, how will I know if you don't tell me?" "Queen, of course she is the queen." Mu Qingtian's peach blossom eyes suddenly shone brightly, and she was delighted. "Would you like me to be the queen, and your sister Qingjian to be your beloved concubine?" "Good." Lin Xian nodded, "Come here, put the queen into the cold palace, deprive her of the throne, and make Qingjian's beloved concubine the queen. Die to me." Mu Qingtian was like a little mad dog, biting his throat. Lin Xian hugged her and smiled happily and wildly. "Watching my sister twist and roll around. This is called life. Wait for Mu Qingjian to come out of the kitchen." Lin Xian rested his head on one sister's thigh and hugged the other sister. The three of them got tired of being together, watching a bloody romance drama in ancient costume. Just when he was playing the leading role, he was pushed to the execution ground and wanted to be beheaded. "Smelly treasure, let me ask you a question." Mu Qingtian was curious and raised her charming face from her brother's arms. "Now that bad guys are executed, can they choose the gun they like? For example, Gatling or something?" Lin Xian: "My sister's hobbies are quite niche. How did you come up with this idea? During the execution, you can indeed choose between injection or shooting." Lin Xian gave her sister some popular science, "But it's not the prisoners who choose, it's the execution units, but most of them are the Bai style, which is very powerful and ensures a fatal shot. So far, I haven't received any bad reviews." Mu Qingtian: "Mu Qingjian: it's nonsense, isn't it? People are dead, how can you give a bad review? When executed, can you dodge bullets? Mu Qingtian is like 100,000 Y babies." "Wrong. It should be said that many girls are in front of their boyfriends. It's like there are 100,000 Ys. But isn't the question you asked a bit strange? Whether you hide or not depends on your mood. You can choose to jump up and down to avoid bullets, or you can choose to jump left and right to avoid bullets." Lin Xian didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Anyway, according to the law, the death penalty is only about the result, not the process, and there is no limit on the number of shots fired on the condemned prisoner. You can hide or not hide, and you can only be shot once or several times. Question: it depends on what you like, you can choose it yourself. He couldn't help but think of a certain movie by Master Singh. There was a guy floating on water with iron legs in that movie. During the execution, he also wanted to use Qinggong to escape. As a result, he was shot down by a rocket launcher. Anyway, since the founding of the Dragon Kingdom, we have never heard of a death row prisoner escaping from the execution ground. There has only been one case where someone was shot to death and then resurrected in the crematorium. What did you do in the end? The forensic doctor went over and took another shot. Send him away completely and watch him be cremated. Both sisters were amused by their brother. As long as Lin Xian comes back, the laughter will never stop. The three of them cuddled together. The air seems to be filled with a warm atmosphere and taste. Laughing in a careless way, I feel faint all my life. With the harp at your disposal, it's best to be quiet. Isn't that what it is? Solving the case is a little bitter, but my sister is super sweet. Author, Kisiun. Chapter 258. In August, the sun shines through sparse clouds, warm and blazing. The breeze blows gently, bringing a little bit of coolness, making people feel particularly comfortable. In the living room, shirtless Lin Xian is working out. A body of muscles with smooth and powerful lines. The 8-pack abs are like carefully carved works of art, exuding a charming luster in the sun. It seems to be able to accommodate all the wind, rain, and sunshine in the world, giving people an endless sense of security. Right now and then, doing push-ups. Mu Qingtian, wearing a vest and shorts, sat cross-legged on her younger brother's back with her delicate body, happily eating ice cream. Looking at my sister doing stretching on the yoga mat beside me, I felt a little envious. Although they all have the same body shape. Mu Qingjian knows Kung Fu, but she can only dance. Some things really depend on talent and cannot be learned. Little ancestor, are you okay? Lin Xian pretended to be weak. I'm going to be exhausted. My vacation is for vacation, not for fitness. And with his monster-like body, he still needs to exercise. What a fuss. Of course not. Mu Qingtian's watery eyes glared. If you don't exercise hard, your abdominal muscles will be gone. What will my sister touch in the future? Come on, is it really okay for you to talk about lust so confidently? Lin Xian laughed angrily. I had no choice but to continue doing push-ups and play with her. By the way, he stared at Mu Qingjian's figure beside him, drooling. Her graceful waist and slender legs all show perfect proportions. The muscles are firm yet soft, and every movement reveals elegance and confidence. Observe football in a civilized manner. No, these legs can last 10 years. Does it look good? Mu Qingtian lay on her younger brother's back, her voice seductive and charming. Lin Xian could easily feel the touch on his back. Are you a monster? Someone flashed their breasts to me. Can I defend myself? One morning, Lin Xian spent time in the gym with his two sisters. Until noon. We took a shower together, walked out of the house, and went to our parents' house. Lu Yunqing had already prepared the meal. Waiting for my son and future daughter-in-law. Lin Dong rarely goes home for lunch. The family is happy and laughing. In the afternoon, Mu Qingtian began to blatantly bully her younger brother. Lin Xian complained to his mother, but he was the one who got beaten. I can't stay in this house anymore, my surname is Mu. While their mothers and daughters are in love with each other. Lin Xian walked out of the house, walked around the community, and smoked a cigarette. Come to the rest area of the community and sit on a bench under the shade of a tree. Smoking a cigarette beautifully, my inner happiness fills me up. Suddenly, a figure sat next to him. Lin Xian turned around and took a look, stunned. Two words come to mind, beauty. It was also the first time that he used the word beauty to describe a middle-aged woman. The word charming remains seems to be tailor-made for her. Time seems to have left no trace on her body. A pair of beautiful eyes are deep and bright, like twinkling stars in the night sky, revealing wisdom and warmth. Her temperament is gentle and dignified, with an indescribable nobility without losing elegance and elegance. Hello. Lin Xian smiled and nodded, putting out his cigarette. Hello, Aunt. The woman looked at his action of putting out the cigarette, and the smile on her face became even stronger. Young man is so handsome. Do you have a girlfriend? What do you want to do? It's not that you want to support me, Lin Xian smiled and said, yes. Oh, is your girlfriend pretty? The beautiful woman asked with a smile. Very beautiful. Lin Xian praised her without hesitation. She is a stunning beauty in my eyes, and she is a beautiful woman in the eyes of many people. Ha ha. The beautiful woman covered her mouth and chuckled, her smiling eyes turning into crescent moons. Lin Xian was stunned. Because the beautiful woman's smile reminded him of his two sisters. When Mu Qingjian is happy, her eyes will smile like crescent moons. When Mu Qingtian is happy, she will smile coquettishly and cover her mouth. How can anyone praise his girlfriend so much? The beautiful woman smiled with crooked eyes. Is your girlfriend obedient? Be obedient, you know how to hurt people. Lin Xian didn't think much and nodded with a smile. I can also take care of people and sometimes coax them. So, you're not too young, right? The beautiful woman seemed surprised, with a smile in her eyes. Yeah, 6 years older than me. Lin Xian grinned, hold 2 gold bricks. Ha ha. The beautiful woman laughed again, looking at how happy you are, I thought you were holding 4 gold bricks. Lin Xian was stunned again. Yes, it is indeed 4 yuan. Both sisters are 6 years older than him, so don't they only have $4? The issue is. How did you know? At this time, Lin Xian had already noticed something was wrong. Staring at the beautiful woman's appearance. The more I looked at it, the more familiar it seemed. The more he looked, the sweat began to form on his forehead. My heart was beating uncontrollably. There seems to be one kind of person's identity in this world, which is naturally opposite to another kind of person's identity. Has extremely strong bloodline suppression. For example, mother-in-law and son-in-law. No matter how awesome the son-in-law's status is, he is still a younger brother to his mother-in-law. Is it this way? Hey, is it hot? The beautiful woman's smile became gentle and kind, her eyes were playful. She took out a handkerchief and wiped the sweat on Lin Xian's forehead. Look at you, you are sweating. Lin Xian didn't dare to move, and the sweat on his forehead became even more. Am I hot? I was so scared. It was only at this moment that I discovered it. All around, there were at least 4 eyes looking at him. The owners of those sites are all the same as Lao Wu. But, they are much stronger than Lao Wu. All of them are soldiers at the king level. I actually thought she wanted to support me just now. Lin Xian's Taoist heart almost collapsed. The thought I just had made me break out in a cold sweat. Now that I have a girlfriend, I have to take good care of my family from now on. The beautiful woman warned with a smile, and glanced at him with her beautiful eyes as bright as stars. Yes, I understand. Lin Xian Nyanyo kept saying, feeling uneasy, Auntie, why don't you come and sit at my house? My parents and sisters are all there. By the way, there is some good tea at home. I can make you a cup of tea myself and let you try it. He's a little conscience-stricken guy. The beautiful woman's smile is as bright as a flower, as sweet as a tree. But her temperament was that of Mu Qingjian's elegance, and she shook her head slightly. The beautiful woman stood up and said, let's go. I'll see you off. Lin Xian stood up and escorted the beautiful woman out of the community. Until an ordinary car was delivered. Before leaving, the beautiful woman smiled and said to him, the old man's birthday is the same month as your old man's birthday. Don't forget it. Definitely arriving, Lin Xian responded. The car left. A commercial vehicle followed behind. Lin Xian breathed a sigh of relief and wiped the sweat from his forehead. But I was curious in my heart, why did she appear? My mother-in-law, what are you doing? You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Solving the case is a little bitter, but my sister is super sweet. Author, Kisiun Zhong. Chapter 259. A night in the late summer. The streets are filled with soft moonlight. The shops along the street are brightly lit. The colorful neon lights dance in the dark night, adding a bit of vitality and prosperity to the streets. Lin Xian and the Mu sisters are facing the breeze and feeling the coolness. enjoying the tranquility and tenderness of the summer night. I saw an ant today. Lin Xian didn't know how to describe his mood at this moment. The two sisters were surprised and looked at each other. Isn't it a very beautiful old ant? Mu Qingtian smiled foolishly. Is she going to support my brother? It's much more terrifying than supporting. Lin Xian said timidly, it's likely that I will need to support her in the future. Huh. Even Mu Qingjian was a little surprised and looked at her brother. Seeing the sister's erratic eyes, Lin Xian's heart trembled. She looks a lot like you too. I feel that she was more beautiful than you two when she was young. If I don't lick her at this time, when will I wait? With a puff, the two sisters laughed together. Everyone guessed who that old ant was. How about you go take care of her? Mu Qing smiled sweetly. Actually, we don't mind. Mu Qingjian slapped her sister on the buttocks. I'm so crazy, I'm going to support my mother-in-law. The corners of Lin Xian's mouth twitched. Tell me, how do you feel? Mu Qingjian's beautiful eyes were gentle. How do you describe that feeling? Lin Xian bared his teeth. It's like a 40 degrees Celsius day, licking the armpit of an 80-year-old man, that sour feeling. Ha ha. The two sisters hugged each other and laughed. In other words, it's schadenfreude. You still have the nerve to laugh. Lin Xian almost couldn't control the ancient power in his body and wanted to beat the two sisters. Aren't you usually very brave? Mu Qingtian hugged her brother's waist and gave him a charming look. Today I took a bath with my two sisters. Where is your courage? Who said I was afraid? Lin Xian straightened his chest. Who have I ever been afraid of? But this courage didn't last for more than 3 seconds. I was scared. He told her about his encounter with his mother-in-law. The two sisters found it funny and were moved. Why would a brother who killed people without blinking an eye and killed hundreds of people be so nervous? It's all because of them. They were worried that their mother would have a bad impression of him. After all, it wasn't a formal meeting, he was dressed casually, and he was smoking in front of his mother-in-law. The image was completely gone. But this silly brother is usually smart and almost a demon. When something happened to him, he became stupid. But he didn't think about it. If your mother-in-law didn't like you, how could she come to see you? She also told you when the old man's birthday was and asked you to go over. Care makes you confused, and being attentive makes you panic. The old saying is absolutely true. The two girls did not speak. They snuggled in his arms together. Lin Xian's heart also settled down. He looked at them in his arms and smiled. When a person dies, the bird flies up. Who am I afraid of? He had completely forgotten how sweaty his forehead was in front of his mother-in-law. Sometimes, I envy the protagonists of those brainless and bloody dramas. Mu Qingjian said softly, unlike in reality, thinking about it over and over again. Why? Lin Xian took the hands of his two sisters and walked together. Because no matter how fiercely they quarrel, how sad it is, how long they have been apart, how big the conflict is. Mu Qingjian said calmly, we all know outside the screen that they will eventually get together. Yes, that kind of destined and undoubted sense of security. Isn't it what men and women want most nowadays? Lin Xian smiled and nodded. This is why no matter how bad those bloody dramas are, there will still be many people who like them. That kind of love, in this unreliable reality today. Where can you find it? Lin Xian held their hands tightly. Hold tight, don't let go. Back home. Mu Qingtian ran to the living room. She pounced and fell on the sofa, groaning. Pa! Lin Xian slapped her little butt. Go take a shower and change clothes. I'm so tired, I don't want to move. Mu Qingtian acted coquettishly, lie down for a while. You're almost lazy. Lin Xian laughed and scolded, sitting aside and looking at Mu Qingjian. Sister, you must be hungry, right? Mu Qingjian. She glared at her brother and went to make supper for her brothers and sisters. Ha ha. Lin Xian happily picked up the fairy on the sofa and kissed her. Look at you, beautiful. Mu Qingtian was jealous. Break up, go live with your sister Qingjian. One more kiss and we'll break up, Lin Xian asked with a smile. Heh, we broke up, who would kiss you? Mu Qingtian said angrily. We broke up with hands, not mouths. Lin Xian held her head, pulled her back, and kissed her. The angry sister hit her brother. Get lost. I won't. He pushed her down on the sofa and kissed her till she was dizzy, and then Lin Xian let go. How can a man let a little woman be so stubborn and nagging? He must control her. Mu Qingtian looked at her brother with blurred eyes, humming, "Stinky baby, what if your sister disappeared from the world one day? No, what are you laughing at?" Looking at Lin Xian, the corners of her mouth were harder to suppress than AK. She was almost angry to death, and hit her brother. Don't laugh. I'm not laughing. Lin Xian chuckled, I'm sad. Bullshit. Mu Qingtian's cheeks were puffed up, and she was as alert as a little fox. You just want to live with your sister Qingjian and not play with me. Dream on, even if I die, I will drag you with me. Damn, so cruel. Lin Xian made a face at her. What are you bragging about? You can't beat me. Believe it or not, I will give you 10 children right away, so that you will be miserable in the future. Mu Qingtian glared angrily, and give you daughters, and give them to Huangmao when they grow up. Damn, Lin Xian almost couldn't control his murderous aura. My daughter, can Huangmao spy on her too? Break their legs. I'm ready to open a few copies of the 7 deadly sins. Are you scared? Mu Qingtian's eyebrows danced with joy, hugged her brother's neck, and threatened nakedly, be obedient in the future, don't think that your sister can't do it. Your threat really scared me to death. Lin Xian wanted to laugh. I thought, should I take out the demon subduing pestle tonight and capture this female demon? It's time to eat. Mu Qingjian came out with the food and called her brother and sister. Xiao Suanzi, serve. Mu Qingtian's mouth curled up, and she was very proud. Lin Xian smiled and kissed her, and carried her like a princess. The 3 siblings gathered at the dining table and ate a delicious midnight snack. Listening to the singing of cicadas outside, feeling the warmth in front of them. Lin Xian was also looking at the 2 beauties in front of him. Tomorrow is too far away. He lowered his head, listened to the laughter of his sisters, and ate. I just want now. Solving the case is a little bitter, but my sister is super sweet. Author, Kisiun Zhong. Chapter 260. The early morning sunlight gently shines into the bedroom, bringing a peaceful and warm atmosphere. Lin Xian opened his eyes from Mu Qingjian's arms. As before, he met a pair of gentle, watery eyes. Mu Qingjian's beautiful eyes sparkled, and she kissed her rebellious son. Are you a puppy? You bite and won't let go. Hey hey. Lin Xian let go, raised his head, and held her in his arms. From a milk baby to a man, the transition was seamless. But the happy days have passed for 6 days. Today is also the last day of vacation. I really don't want to go to work. When I have children later. Mu Qingjian's eyes were as soft as water, and she said with a joking tone, are you also competing for milk with the child? My sister's words were so sharp, Lin Xian wanted to be sexy but stopped. Is this something a human being can do to grab milk with a child? Get up, milkman, didn't you promise your little vixen to go out and play today? Mu Qingjian joked and wanted to get up. But she was hugged by Lin Xian and refused to let go, saying plausibly, she will stay in bed for a while, but she can't get up. It's almost 7 o'clock. Mu Qingjian pushed Nizai, slightly annoyed. Result. Lin Xian put his head in her arms. Mu Qingjian's beautiful eyes gradually became blurred. What do you learn after having a man? When he acts coquettishly, your body becomes weak. 8 o'clock. Mu Qingjian made breakfast, and Lin Xian asked Mu Qingtian to get up. Get up. Lin Xian looked at the female seductress wearing cartoon pajamas on the bed and pinched her little face. Don't want. Mu Qingtian twisted around on the bed, humming and hugging the quilt. Didn't you agree to go play? Lin Xian threatened, if you don't go, then we will leave. Mu Qingtian opened her eyes, hugged his neck, and said angrily, how dare you? Then can't you get up? Lin Xian picked her up. Can you sleep with your sister for a while? Mu Qingtian bit her brother's ear and said, sister, I'll wear JK for you. Am I the kind of person who can be tempted? Lin Xian sneered. I hugged my sister and went to bed, preparing to sleep with her for a while. As for moral integrity, crunchy, potato chip flavor. Mu Qingtian's evil plan succeeded, and she almost laughed her head off, moaning and acting coquettishly. Like a vixen, he would not let the emperor go to court early. Stinky baby. It is said online that a boy cannot fall in love with two girls at the same time, otherwise he will be a scumbag. Haha, who didn't fall in love with a few scumbags when they were young? Seeing his serious look, Mu Qingtian couldn't help but fall into deep thought. She gave full marks to her brother for what he said in a saucy way, so shameless. I'm warning you, don't drink the poisonous chicken soup on the internet. Lin Xian knew very well the extent to which those girls in later generations were poisoned. Otherwise, one day you will be sold, and you will still be counting money for others. Then tell your sister. Mu Qingtian hugged her brother's neck, a smile bloomed on her face. Who is the most beautiful woman in your heart? Isn't this simple? Lin Xuanyi said sternly, my mother. Mu Qingtian. You are such a clever little ghost. I couldn't be angry even if I wanted to. What about your mother? Except my mother. Lin Xian smiled evilly, my milk. Mu Qingtian. This bitch must have done it on purpose. My chest hurt with hatred, so I continued to ask, apart from your mother and your breasts. Of course. Lin Xian said seriously, my grandma. Strangle you. Mu Qing pinched her brother's neck angrily. Don't be angry, it's your turn soon. Lin Xian laughed. Real. Mu Qingtian's peach blossom eyes sparkled with joy, then tell me, who is the most beautiful besides them? I'm too milky. Lin Xian jumped up instantly and rushed to the door. Lin Xian. Mu Qingtian screamed, jumped up, and chased you, I'll kill you. Lin Xian laughed as he ran. Look, aren't you getting up now? After serving Mu Qingtian and taking a bath, Lin Xian carried her to the restaurant. The three siblings were eating breakfast. Unexpectedly, it suddenly started raining heavily outside. Can't go out to play. Mu Qingtian shouted depressedly and angrily. Accidents will happen. Lin Xian comforted, I heard from the old man that sometimes it's a good thing if you don't get what you want. For example, if it rains, maybe God is preventing you from going out to play, and maybe something will happen where we play. Do you still believe this? Mu Qingjian was surprised. Of course I don't believe it. Lin Xian smiled and said, I'm not lying to her, ah no, I'm trying to comfort her. Mu Qingtian. Thank you. Suddenly, her cell phone rang. He picked it up and looked at his sister in surprise. My cousin is celebrating her birthday and asked us to play. This cousin is the child of the two sisters' aunt's family. Mu Qingjian looked at her younger brother. Watch what I do. Lin Xian stood up and said, let's go. The three siblings changed their clothes and went out. Went to a very special club. Lin Xian accompanied his two sisters and a group of young people to play and celebrate their birthdays. Suddenly discovered. The three of them are somewhat out of tune with these young people. When you get used to one kind of life, it is difficult to adapt to another life. They prefer the kind of days when time boils rain and years sow flowers. Very plain, but I like it very much. Walk out of the clubhouse. The three siblings looked at the cousin. I am in my 20s, it was my birthday, but I drank too much. The car can't be driven, and they don't feel comfortable riding alone in the car. Lin Xian, who had not drank, drove her to see her. Well. Sitting in the car, the girl sighed. What's wrong? Mu Qing asked her cousin with a sweet smile. How ironic. The girl said angrily, I have been looking for a boyfriend in college for 3 years, but he is still busy when it rains. I can't even ask him to pick me up. He works all day long. For a moment, the Mu sisters frowned. The gaze he looked at this cousin became a little dull and distant. Lin Xian glanced at the girl through the rearview mirror and shook his head with a smile. Some women are like that. They can really take selfishness for granted. If you compare it like that, it's quite ironic. Lin Xian smiled and said, we only saw you off today, and your boyfriend didn't pick you up today. The girl was stunned and speechless. What are you most afraid of in relationships? Long-term companionship is not as good as the sudden warmth in some people's hearts. What an irony. However, we will never meet again in the future. The two sisters probably won't be playing with this cousin anymore. Chickens don't talk like ducks, dragons don't live with snakes. Returning to their own home, all the unhappiness disappeared in an instant. Outside the window. The drizzle is like silk, falling gently. Lin Xian hugged his two sisters and looked at the raindrops outside. An inexplicable tenderness surged in my heart. Let's go see my uncle and aunt in a few days. Lin Xian's words seemed to have decided something. Moment. The beautiful eyes of the two sisters twinkled and the corners of their mouths curled up. They have been waiting for this sentence for a long time.